Hello, good evening everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. So welcome to the news today edition of 31st of July, wherein we try and make all important news for the day in the most simplest format for you guys to understand. So let's look at the important news for today. So recently, NISAR satellite has been launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. The United States has announced 25% tariff on Indian exports. The UN Deputy Secretary General has called for an urgent action to fix global food systems. India's resolution on the wise use of wetlands has been adopted at the Ramsar Conference of Parties 15 in Zimbabwe. And the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has led to key economic reforms. And we are going to discuss quick updates for today, followed by place in news, that is United Arab Emirates. So let's look at the first important topic for today. So NASA, ISRO, that is the joint collaboration, and it has been one of the biggest and most costliest Earth or observatory satellite, which has been launched by a joint venture between NASA and ISRO. That is why NISAR stands for NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, right? And it has been launched from Sri Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, right? So again, very self-understood. It is important for your general studies paper number 3 pertaining to topic of science and tech in terms of its uses in disaster management and as well as its uses in environment and ecology, which we are going to see. Before that, it is very important to understand, again, you must have come across a lot of time geosynchronous, polar orbit, sun synchronous orbit. So let's look at very briefly, what do you understand by this? So imagine this is, again, of you have seen that again, this is a picture of Earth. This is the axis of Earth, right? So this orbit is basically called as geostationary orbit, right? Now there are few satellites who are running on this geosynchronous orbit, which are called as geosynchronous satellites. Some satellites are observing Earth from a low status, which are called as low Earth orbits. Again, the distance of the satellite from the surface of Earth is less than 1,000 kilometers. Here the distance of satellites from the surface of Earth is approximately 35,000 kilometers. So this satellite, which has been launched by NASA and ISRO joint venture, it is going to be a polar sun synchronous satellite, right? So again, it will be there in the sun synchronous orbit, and again, this is where the poles lies, and that is why we call it as a polar sun synchronous orbit. So what is the utility of this? Right, so if you look at, this is how the satellite will be moving, right? And Earth will be rotating around its own axis. It will be spinning like this. So again, this satellite will be covering the entire Earth, right? And this is how Earth is going to spin. And that is why we call it as a polar sun synchronous satellite. So what do we understand by polar sun synchronous? So again, sun synchronous orbit basically means the satellite is going to pass through the same part of the Earth at same time of the day every day, right? So today, if it has passed from this particular point, again tomorrow at the very same time it is going to be passed through same point. It is going to make us help in what manner? We are going to very quickly and closely observe the changes which are happening in the surface of Earth or in the ecosystem of Earth, right? So that is what the utility of placing this satellite in this sun synchronous polar orbit, right? And which is helping us to make the comparisons and tracking across the nature of Earth in a most simplest and easiest format. What is polar orbits? Of course, the satellites which are revolving around the poles of Earth, right? So again, this satellite is going to be a polar sun synchronous orbit, which is be revolving around the poles in a sun synchronous orbit, right? And it is going to cover the entire poles of Earth, right? Covering the entire planet as Earth spins beneath it. So again, this is how, if Earth is spinning like this, so this is going to be the satellite, and if Earth is spinning like this, so again the spin is going to track the entire Earth, and that is why it is called at the Earth Observatory Satellites. Very quick facts. So again, it is going to be an Earth observatory satellite because the satellite is going to observe the entire Earth, right? And it is weighing around 2,392 kgs, right? And it is going to cover this entire orbit in a span of every 97 minutes. Right? Every 97 minutes, it is going to cover the entire from pole to pole, right? And it is going to send back the images which the satellite has been capturing with an interval of 12 days. So every 12 days, again, Earth is revolving around this, right? So again, it is going to give the entire picture of Earth, right? By revolving 97 minutes, right? And it is going to give the picture of Earth in every 12 days, right? And the mission has a lifespan of 5 years. And very important that usually, as this is a satellite which is there in the which orbit? The polar orbit, right? So usually in polar orbits, India used to send satellites through polar satellite launch vehicle. So this is a big achievement for ISRO as well in terms of its launch vehicle capacity, where again we have been launching the satellite with a GSLV F-16 rocket launch vehicle. Very important achievement for ISRO of India, right? And of course, it is a sun-synchronous polar orbit satellite. Very important facts for your prelims examination. Then, what makes this whole process very, let's say, what we call as important for India per se, right? Okay, so in terms of frequency, right? So again, it is using two frequency bands, L band, which is of NASA, right, and S band, which is of ISRO, right? So again, these two bands is basically some like you are watching entire thing with two eyes, right? One through frequency band of L, that is of NASA's, and one through frequency band of S, that is of ISRO. So it is going to again give us a more finer details of the Earth's surface with the use of these two frequency bands, which is making this satellite so special. Then we talk about the use of synthetic aperture radar. So usually satellites capture pictures, right? They capture through cameras and they send back the images. So this satellite is something different, as it is called as a radar. So again, instead of using normal camera, it is sending the radar waves, right, which is down to earth, right? So again, the image is not captured through cameras, but again through radar waves. That is why we call it as a synthetic aperture radar, right? So it is collecting echoes bouncing back from earth, and again it is collected by moving and collecting many echoes, and again that's how it is going to create a very synthetic, big, high resolution images of this particular earth, right? Then in terms of technology, again SWEEP SAR, again SAR stands for synthetic aperture radar. So this satellite is also going to help in cover wide areas in a quick time, right, with the usage of two lenses, a two frequency band, that is S and L band, right? And again it is launched through GSLV F-16, what we have discussed, right? Then in terms of what we call as why it is important, right? So again, satellites are very important in terms of Earth observation. If it is giving images of Earth in such high resolution in, let's say, an interval of 97 minutes, and in every 12 days, we are getting images which are curated in every 97 minutes, it is going to help us in what manner? We are easily able to track down few changes which are happening on Earth ecosystem. It is also going to help us in terms of predictions of cyclones, earthquakes, because as every day change is observed in a particular area, so this is how it is going to help us down in terms of lot of ways. For example, it is going to help us that how cropping patterns and how forests are growing or changing, because every day image is getting created, right? Then in terms of, we are easily able to track down how fast climate change is happening. We are going to get a very real picture of that, wherein we are going to see how ice are melting, how let's say glacier melting is happening, all of those. Then in terms of in spotting earthquakes, because the tectonic movement can be tracked and because by these images, why? Because on a daily basis, images are getting captured. So again, a comparative analysis is going to help us down in terms of tracking of various disasters like earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides by measuring tiny movements on Earth's surface, right? And it is also going to help us in our disaster response, again, early warning system, right? So, for example, hurricanes, flood, since it can see even through clouds, because it is not using normal cameras, it is using what? Radio waves to capture the images, right? Then, in terms of its global impact, it is a very wise project because the data which is captured by this satellite is going to be available free of cost for entire global scientific community, right? It is not just like only NASA and ISRO has launched the satellite. So again, the images and data are only going to be used by India and USA. No, this is an open, what we call as data policy, where again, all the data will be freely available to all scientific community. Specifically, it is beneficial for developing countries who have not so much developed in the idea of space exploration in terms of space technology, which do not have funding, right? And it is also going to support research, again, on the idea of climate change, disaster resilience, and the idea of sustainable development. Very important and very good initiative by launching this particular satellite, and very important for the examination as well. So let's look at any question which can be interlinked to the topic. In 2020, there was a question: how is science intervened deeply within our lives? What are the striking changes in agriculture triggered off by science-based technology? As I discussed, what is one use of the satellite? Where again, it can help us to clearly predict the cropping patterns, the land use, and everything like that, right? So this is where NISAR's role in monitoring crops, wetlands, natural disasters can be included as an example in this type of question. Then in terms of one more question in paper number 3, 2018, India's achievements in the field of space, science, and technology. We have to discuss again, that can be one such innovation which has been done by joint collaboration between two international space organizations, that is ISRO and NASA, right? This is how you are going to use these kind of innovations in science and tech in content of your answers. Moving on to the next news for today. Very important, this has been in news all over, right? So recently, United States of America has imposed a 25% tariff on Indian products which are going to enter the US soil. And it is not just like that, it does not end here. There is going to be some penalties over and above these 25% as well, though US has not clarified us yet that what kind and what would be the nature of these penalties. But again, it has told that again, apart from this 25% tariff, we are also going to impose some penalties on Indian products which are entering the US soil, right? So again, very important topic for your GS paper number 2, bilateral relations, international institutions, in terms of paper number 3, economic development, trade policy, then the changes in policy of developed countries, its impact on developing countries. So many topics with respect to syllabus is very important as far as this policy of US government is concerned. So let's look at what has been done. So again, this trade war has been there in news. So firstly, in January 2025, US began, after the whole, when again Mr. Donald Trump got elected as the US president, so he took America's first as his policy with respect to all domains. Again, so this is where USA began the tariff actions on its major partners, right? Then in April 2025, US has told that again we are going to impose 26% reciprocal tariff on India. So again, it initially told that again it was going to impose 26% of tariff, but again now it has told that again it was usually, it was felt that again with the negotiations which are happening between India and USA, the bilateral visits, it was assumed that US is not going to impose such heavy tariffs on Indian exports. But now, with a very recent announcement, from August 1, 2025, all Indian products entering the US soil is going to get a 25% tariff plus some penalties which are not yet disclosed at what kind of penalties are going to be imposed by US government on Indian products. Then in terms of why exactly US has been doing this. So again, Mr. Trump has given many reasons. One such reason is that in terms of trade imbalance, when it comes to trade between India and US, US has been on deficit with respect to Indian trade between India and US, where again Indian exports to US is more than what we call as US exports to India. So this is one such reason why this tariffs has been imposed. Then in terms of India is, because many times we have seen what the US government has told that again, India has very strict tariff norms with respect to US products which are entering on Indian soil. Why they have told? Because India has been making many rules with respect to food safety and agriculture that makes US products which are entering the Indian soil, like dairy or meat, to very difficult. Because apart from tariff, there are some non-tariff barriers to trade as well, right? For example, we call it as some sanitary and phytosanitary barriers that are imposed by the Indian government on certain amount of products which are entering into Indian soil, right? That has been one reason which has been cited with respect to this 25% tariff which has been imposed by US. So again, the US particularly sees them as unfair non-monetary trade barriers. That has what been told by the US president. Then in terms of BRICS membership, again all of you must have been knowing the term what we call as de-dollarization. So again, with this BRICS grouping, what we have come together, that again we are moving towards anti-dollar, because we have seen the growing dominance of dollar in the international trade. So US is seeing this particular move as against the financial dominance of dollars. That is why imposition of these heavy tariffs. And lastly, the friendship between India and Russia has not been very well reciprocated by US government, where again it is seeing that again how India is importing defense and oil from the Russia, where again with the whole idea of Russia-Ukraine war going on, US has put sanctions on Russia, and again if it is seeing that in spite of these sanctions which has been put forward by US government, if India is still trading with Russia, so it is not very well reciprocated by the US government, and that has been one reason also which has been cited with respect to this heavy tariffs which has been imposed on Indian products. Then in terms of how it is going to affect Indian trade and Indian government, so there has been a bilateral trade agreement talk going on between India and US, just like we had it recently between India and UK. So we are on talks on having a bilateral trade agreement. So again, with this tariff, it is now becoming very important that again we need to very quickly initiate and accelerate this bilateral trade agreement, and again which is expected to maybe increase the trade between US and India to up to $500 billion by 2030, which is currently somewhere around $131.8 billion. Then as tariffs are getting imposed on Indian products, right? But with some neighboring countries or Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, the US has imposed only a tariff of 20%. On Indonesian products, it has put up a tariff of 19%, which is of course, going to be a competitive disadvantage for certain kind of products, which all of these are importing. So again, Indian products which will become costlier, and their demand is going to fall down, right? And lastly, in terms of impact on exports, of course, with the high tariffs, the value of exports, the demand for Indian products is going to decrease because of increase in price over there, right? That has been done because and it is going to affect the Indian medical sector very heavily because India is the largest exporter of generic drugs to United States, right? And higher cost, which is going to happen with this 25% of tariff is going to affect this particular medical pharmaceutical sector. And lastly, of course, in general, it is going to disrupt the entire supply chain with respect to Indian products entering the US soil, right? Then, how has India responded to it? Again, India has responded very calmly and again very in a diplomatic manner, that again when it comes to international trade, we have a very clear stance on it, where again India has told that India remains committed to fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade agreement, which is prioritizing in terms of farmers, MSMEs and keeping the spirit of national interest in international trade, right? So this is how India has responded. Again, it is going to be some news which is going to be covered up in news for quite a long, so very important topic for your examination. Any previous year question? For example, the themes which could be interlinked with what has been asked by UPSC in 2020, they have asked around a theme that is to evaluate India's trade relations in the context of protectionism. What is protectionism? So again, wherein some countries make some kind of policies which are protecting their country. For example, this imposition of heavy tariffs on US by US government on Indian products is again a protectionism measure of certain products which are indigenously produced by US in the US by US companies, right? Then in terms of 2018, there was a theme which is role of subsidies and non-tariff barriers in global trade, right? So this is how it can be, this news can be interlinked to these few themes which has been asked by UPSC. Moving on to the next news. So recently there has been a United Nations Food Systems Summit in which the UN Deputy Secretary has called for an urgent action to fix the global food systems, right? So again, very important, the summit has been held in Addis Ababa, right? And it can be interlinked to two parts of your syllabus, GS paper number 2, that is issues related to poverty and hunger, because we are talking about, let's say, food systems over here. I will ask you one question, and again, I would like you to answer on comment that again, zero hunger is again coming under which sustainable goal target which has to be achieved by 2020? Please answer in the comment section. It can also be interlinked to GS paper number 3, that is the idea of agriculture, environment and economy. So basic facts, because as this summit has happened, some facts is very important because this is how UPSC asks questions in your prelims examination. So it was held in Addis Ababa, that is in Ethiopia, right, the summit. And again, it is a second biennial summit with respect to United Nations Food Security, Food Systems Summit +4. And it is a progress report which has been launched over here. And again, it is a review of a summit which has happened in 2021 with the name of UN Food System Summit. And it is basically talking about that again, how we are going to make the entire food system of the global, at a global level, which is going to be climate resilient, inclusive and sustainable food systems. So again, all of you must have one question in mind. Okay, sir, we are talking about food systems. So what do we understand by food system? So food system basically means that again, food is basically a journey from the farmland to the plate in which you're eating that food. So that whole chain which is happening from farm to fork is basically what we call as food systems. Again, it is a food journey from farm to plate, wherein the whole journey starts from growing of food, then processing that food in the form of food processing industries, then packaging of foods in terms of marketing of fruits, selling them, eating them, and again, towards the end, there are a lot of food which are getting wasted, which are getting thrown away as well. So this whole cycle is basically called as food system. So again, it includes which all sectors of food industries and areas, farmers, factories where again foods are getting manufactured, processed, the shops where it is getting sold, then in terms of people who are cooking them, eating them, and again even the garbage where again foods, the waste foods are getting dumped. So again, this system is basically called as the global, and they connect, because food is one thing which is connecting millions of people. And this is the idea which has been talked about, that again we need to discuss and make the whole food system of the entire globe, which is going to be sustainable, climate resilient. So what exactly has been discussed over there? What reforms has been proposed? So they are telling that even if many times we see the prices of foods are getting reduced, maybe the price which you're paying at the shop is less, but the amount which is also getting cost, which this food manufacturing is costing the economy is very high. Let's see how. The global food systems has certain hidden cost, which is somewhere arounding to $11.6 trillion. Because once we produce food, once we eat food, once we process food, once we market foods, there are a lot of environmental impact which are also created by this whole process. That is called as, it is leading to 30% of global greenhouse gas emission. Then it is also using 70% of fresh water. It is also using it is also causing, let's say, 80% of biodiversity loss. So these are some implicit, let's say, cost which are associated with the food system, which is costing around $11.6 trillion. And on terms of social angle, we have a concept of hunger. So in terms of this, as food systems are not good in the entire global value chain, it is leading to 783 million people which are still under chronic hunger. And in terms of economics, because as agriculture is associated primarily with the food system, so this is leading to employment is there in agriculture, but it has a very low return to farmers. Because we have seen that in India also, that again how many, 49% of people are employed in the agriculture sector, which is only contributing 16% to Indian GDP, right? So, and we have a concept of disguised unemployment as well in the agriculture sector that has been interlinked and that has been discussed in this whole summit of food systems. Then, in terms of why they are telling what are the reasons which are leading to the failing of this food system. Number one, climate disasters are happening. And again, we have seen that again how it is very minutely linked with the food system, because with droughts, with floods, with storms, there is destruction of crops happening, and again it is maybe interrupting the entire food delivery process. Then in terms of many times we have seen that again how public debt are rising, and in some developing countries these debt are very high, right? So if a country has very high debt, the amount of money which country is having, most of the money is being spent by the company in giving back these debt or the loans which has been taken by this country. So again, they are left with very less amount which they can spend on food security. This is also one such reason with respect to falling food systems. And lastly, with respect to infrastructure, because we have seen in India at a global level as well, with respect to food, there is no cold storage system, there are poor roads, there are markets where again, we have seen that again how in markets foods are getting spoiled or wasted. So these are the reasons why this issue has been highlighted, and this is why it is very important that again in order to tackle the problem of zero hunger and again tackle the sustainable development goal, we are going to be very closely working on these challenges with respect to food systems at a global level. Then what exactly is the way ahead which has been suggested by this summit? So again, they have told that again in order to tackle the challenges which are associated with food system, we are going to work on local farming and training, right? That is how it is going to be resilient with respect to the changes which are happening in the climate area. Then in terms of we are going to build better storage and better transportation facilities. Then supporting women and youth-led solutions, which is again going to help in terms of employment generation, inclusive growth. Again, the targets of sustainable development, and tell me in comment which is the sustainable development goal number with respect to the idea of inclusive growth, right? Then it is also going to link the emergency of food aid with a long-term planning, right? So these are the following way ahead which has been suggested by this particular report. Very important topic for the examination. I would tell in terms of generally, apart from the food system, the UN summit, what we have discussed, there are a few other measures which have been taken at a global level with respect to food system. Number one, in the Conference of Parties 28, which has been held in UAE, there has been agreement by 160 countries who had included food in the idea of climate change adaptations. Then in terms of biodiversity agreement, which has happened in COP 15 and 16, they have also set goals to protect nature and fix the food system. In World Food Program, there have been a teaching of farmers for better ways to grow and sell food. In G7 and G20 projects under the summits, there has been launching big efforts to fight hunger and poverty through food system. So these are a few other measures with respect to food system which has been happening at global level. Again, very important for your prelims, and again, you can use them in your mains examination as pointers. Any PYQ, I have been discussing a lot of mains question with respect to GS papers. Let's see one question of essay. Right, where again how this topic can be interlinked. So again in 2022, there was an essay topic, poorest of poor are the most vulnerable to climate change, right? Wherein how this idea of food system, food insecurity can also be one major component of your essay, which you can write over here. So that is how please start interlinking news with the respective syllabus, which is going to help you down to exactly connect the point and again use them in your answers and in the process of examination. The next topic. So India has recently put up a resolution in Conference of Parties 15 on the ideas of Ramsar Convention, which is happening in Zimbabwe. So India has proposed a resolution with respect to wetland management and sustainable lifestyle, which needs to be adopted in order to tackle the challenges with these wetlands across the globe are facing. Very important topic for your GS paper number 3, environment. Wetlands, again, we must have discussed this topic many times in the news today editions also. So wetlands, just like we have, our body has lungs, our bodies has kidney which performs different function. So lungs of earth are the forest, right? And kidneys of earth are these wetlands. Right, so again, wetlands helps in a lot of ways in terms of management of floods, in terms of management of sea level rise, a lot of things in terms of biodiversity, many things, so again, you must have discussed. So what exactly has this report highlighted? That again, we need to adopt a sustainable lifestyle on our day-to-day life. In order to preserve this wetland, we need to change the way we are leading our life. So again, that lifestyle is going to be a sustainable lifestyle aligning with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Right, so it is supported by 172 countries. What India has proposed is being supported by 172 countries, and it is also aligning with, because India has launched one major vision under UNFCCC, which I'm going to discuss, that is Mission Life. Again, in terms of how we are going to live a lifestyle for environment, right? And it is advocating for, because it is not going to happen something without an individual effort, without a community effort. So again, this resolution has asked for individual and community-led wetland conservation. With respect to Mission Life, very important for your prelims examination. So this was launched by India at United Nations Framework for Climate Change, which happened in Glasgow in Conference of Parties 26. Again, it is encouraging for what? For having a lifestyle for environment, that is Mission Life. Which again, how we are going to do that in a day-to-day life, and not just this, please try as a good citizens, we are with climate change happening, we are going to use this in our daily lifestyle, so that again the Mother Earth is getting preserved, and that is, if we are going to give a good Mother Earth to the coming future generation. How? by reducing wastage of water, conserving water, energy, right? Adopting sustainable consumption patterns. Many a times have been seeing that again how plastic and everything are being degraded, and again we are using for sustainable cups, plates and everything like that. Then now it is also asking that again this mission life is also going to be incorporated in conservation of these wetland. That has been the resolution which has been given by India in the COP 15 in Zimbabwe, right? So they have been talking about a wise use of wetland. So what exactly is wise use of wetland, which is also a theme under Ramsar Convention, that again we are going to use these wetlands in a very wise manner. Why? Because wise means using wetlands in a way that keeps their natural balance intact, that the way are, because why? Because it is going to, we are benefiting a lot of ways with respect to wetland. Like we are helping, wetlands are also being used for fishing, farming and tourism. It is also protecting their natural health in terms of how they're helping in biodiversity, water quality, flood control. So it is very important that again if we are borrowing something from wetlands, so again we are going to give back to the Mother Earth. That is how with these sustainable lifestyle practices, it is something which we are giving back to the Mother Earth. Then in terms of India's steps, because apart from the COP resolution, there are a lot of things which India has been doing when it comes to wetland management. Very important facts for your prelims examination. We have a national level wetland protection plan. We have IMPS, that is management plans that balance usage and conservation of wetlands. Then we have wetland wise use framework 2024, which is a detailed guide for wetland protection. Then again we have people participation with respect to Mission Sabhagita and Save Wetlands campaign, where again 20 lakh people are volunteering for the cause of wetland conservation, and they have helped to map approximately 1.7 wetlands across India. Wetlands are what? Lakes, mangroves, estuaries, right? All of these are examples of wetlands. Then in terms of Ramsar Convention, because again it is something aligning with the idea of wetland conservation, Ramsar always comes into picture. So again the conference of parties is of course happening under the Ramsar Convention. So again we are going to very briefly discuss. Again this conference, the convention was adopted in 1971 in Iran, and it came into effect in 1975. And again it is a global effort to protect and wise use of wetlands. There are approximately wetlands which are declared under this Ramsar Convention, or of course wetlands of international importance. And again there are few criteria which need to be met in order an area to be called as a wetland under conservation under this Ramsar Convention. So it need to have at least one of the 9 scientific criteria which has been put up by this particular convention. And lastly, India has currently 91 Ramsar sites, which is highest in Asia. Again, tell me what do you understand by Montreux's record, where again all wetlands which are of which have a very huge importance and which are going to be maybe degraded in the coming future are kept under Montreux's record. Please tell me in comments what are the 2 sites which are under Montreux's record in this under the Ramsar Convention. So next, again it can be interlinked with few PYQs, that is in 2020, what are the key features of wetlands conservation rule? Very important. In what way do they help in sustainable management of wetlands in India? Very good. Then what is a wetland? And see this question. Explain the Ramsar concept of wise use in the context of wetland conservation, right? So again, this is how this topic is also talking about, or this resolution of India is also talking about the wise use, that is sustainable lifestyle practices which need to be done in order to tackle the wetlands conservation. Now, moving on to the next important news and last news for today, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is proposing a key reform with respect to economic indicators in India, because we have been using a lot of indicators, for example GDP, in order to tackle growth, which is in order to see how exactly growth is happening in the country. We have, in order to measure inflation, we have consumer price index. In order to see how much we are producing on an industrial front, we have in this industrial IIP as a parameter, right? So all of these parameters are proposed by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, that we are going to revise all of them. So that is why this news is very important, and it can be interlinked to GS paper number 3, that is Indian economy. So what all things have been discussed? So very quickly, they have told that how exactly we are measuring GDP of a country, that is we are going to change. We are going to revise the base year from 2011-12 to 22 and 23, and this is how, because we are also going to use some more parameters in order to calculate GDP, right? So again, they are, because how things have been changing in economy with the use of technology, with innovations happening, with changes happening, there are few changes in economic patterns as well, right? So all of these are going to be incorporated in GDP calculation. For example, we are also going to use the GST returns, the UPI payments which are being done by citizens of the country, the vehicle registrations, e-Vahan, along with the existing data from RBI, CGA and company filings, right, under the MCA 21. So all of these are something which are going to be incorporated in GDP calculation. Then in terms of index of industrial production, which is basically telling us how much India is producing in the factories, in mines and in power sector. So the base year of this IIP is also going to be changed from 2011-12 to 23 and 22 and 23, right? Very important data with respect to how they can be a question in your prelims examination. Then there is also one change in terms of how we are calculating the consumer price index. So in this, what we have done, that again, what exactly is consumer price index? So basically this index talks about that again how prices are changing from things which people actually buy. आप क्या खरीदते हैं, right? In terms of groceries, fuel, rent. So this is how it is going to track. And again, there are few changes which has been proposed, that again how exactly we are calculating this consumer price index. Again, the base year is going to be revised from 2012 to 2024, right? And as consumer, the nature of products which you are consuming, the nature of your consumption has changed. So this price index is also going to take into consideration that changes as well. By example, online prices, for example, flight tickets, the OTT platforms, all of these are going to be included in this price calculation, or the maybe consumer price index calculation. And also government data on fuel prices, because how we have seen that again fuel prices has been rising, which is again a major component of spending which has been done by Indian consumers. Then there are two important surveys which are also going to be conducted, that is annual survey of service sector enterprises, as we did it for IIP. So again, in the service sectors, for example, hotels, in terms of tourism, that how this service sector of India has been performing, that has to be done by this particular survey. And there is also household consumption expenditure survey, which is also going to be done, which is again that how exactly people are spending on food, education and transport. Initially, it was done every 3 years, but now it will now exactly. So again, earlier it was done for 5 years, but with this change which has been proposed, it is going to happen every 3 years, so that again we get more up-to-date information about the household consumption expenditure which is happening in India. Now, two important surveys which was not being done has been included in this whole idea of change of the how economy is going to be measured. For example, National Household Travel Survey, because you have seen that again how we are seeing that again how there are traffic management issues, there are rising prices of aviation sector, or maybe we talk about how the transportation cost has increased in terms of railways as well. So this survey is basically going to track down that again where people are traveling from where to where, and how exactly that is their origin and destination, what kind of transport they are using. For example, are they using buses, trains or flights? Then why they choose one transport over the other, what are the reasons? Is it cheaper, is it faster, or is it more comfortable? then how sensitive people are to the price changes which are happening around this transportation sectors. For example, if train tickets become expensive, are people switching to buses? If flight tickets are rising, are people switching to train? That is how this survey is going to collect all such data. How is this data useful in terms of economy? So it will help in better planning of railways and transport system. It is going to help the planning level and in terms of research and government planners and even businesses that can use it to design smart travel networks, and it is going to be shared with Railway Ministry. Will use this data to improve the train routes and services across this travel sector. Very important survey and very good initiative by the government. One more new survey has been added because we have seen that again how people have been spending a lot on tourism as well, right? So on the tourism aspect, the survey is also going to calculate, because again, tourism is very important sector of economy, that how much did you spend on your recent trip? How did you, why did you travel? Was it a vacation? Was it a religious visit? Was it a business visit? How did you travel? Again, by train, car, or plane. Then, where did you stay? And hotel, guest house, or relative place. What kind of tourism-related stuff did you use? Tickets, guides, souvenirs, etc. So all of these are going to be maybe asked by this particular survey. It is going to be useful that again, how people are spending money while they travel. It is also going to give a full picture with respect to domestic tourism trends, which places are popular, how much money tourism brings to the economy, and how to improve the travel infrastructure of the Indian economy, right? So very important two surveys which are very new and a very rational step by the government with respect to how we are going to calculate the economy or the changes in economy which is happening. Why did we went for these changes? Why there is a need? Because we have seen India has changed a lot since 2011-12, because people are spending, the spending habit has changed, the industry has changed, we have come up with digital economy, right? Everything is evolving, so again, we also need to evolve that again, how we are tracking the growth of economy. Then in terms of, there are a lot of new data also, which are not incorporated in the in our current way, how do we calculate GDP, CPI, IIP, or all of those. So again, it is going to incorporate the GST, UPI data, which is going to give them a real-time accurate information. And lastly, the changing base year, again, very important economy concept. What is the importance of base year? Because this base year is going to help us see the real growth. Is it actually, are the prices only getting inflated, or actually India is producing more products? So this is how we are going to track it down with the base year change, right? So by removing inflation effect, that is growth in value and not just in prices, right? So very important why are these reforms, and very important, and again this is where UPSC has been asking a lot of questions in the Indian economy with respect to GDP, CPI, very important topic. Please read and please see the changes, what has happened, which base year we are using, because this is where one, you can expect one question statement in prelims examination next year. Moving on to the place in news, that is United Arab Emirates, that is UAE, which has a capital of Abu Dhabi. Why? Because there has been a joint defense cooperation committee meeting which is happening in New Delhi, which is basically a defense partnership between India and UAE. So very important. Many a times UPSC has asked questions from the West Asian region. So you are going to locate all the countries over here. You are going to see important sea, that is Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean. What are countries are there? In terms of UAE, it is a constitutional federation of 7 emirates, and it includes Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah. In the west and the southern side, it is bordered by Saudi Arabia, and on the southeastern side, it has been bordered by Oman, right? It has a maritime, that is a water boundary with respect to Gulf of Oman over here, and the Persian Gulf, which is over here. In terms of strategically very important Strait of Hormuz, which is again a very important crude oil route. which is there, it is passing through this region, that is the Strait of Hormuz, and again Tropic of Cancer also passes through Abu Dhabi. So these are the few important facts with respect to the place in news, that is United Arab Emirates. Moving on to the quick updates for today. The first update is their government has proposed changes in how exactly we are appointing the State Director General of Police, that is DGPs. So government has make it a single window system which has been introduced by the government in order that again to streamline the appointment of these DGPs. It is based on two important Supreme Court judgments with respect to the Prakash Singh versus Union of India 2006 and the UPSC 2009 guidelines. Right. So how they are going to be appointed now? What is the new rule? That again, whenever a state and there is a retirement which is going to happen in a particular state, the respective state governments must send the eligible officer list to UPSC 6 months before, right, the DGP's retirement, the current DGP's retirement. Then again, who are eligible to be appointed? They consist of any IPS officer who has a 30+ years of service or are in an appropriate rank, which is again either he could be a DGP or just one rank below DGP. These persons are eligible, and it excludes officers who are going to retire in less than 6 months, because there is that is how they have been making eligible criteria, so that again people who are nearing the retirement are not, because this is going to be a long-term post. And with respect to UPSC roles, because UPSC is going to shortlist the 3 officers, because the state which are going to give the names, it is going to be given to UPSC, and UPSC going to shortlist 3 officers, and it is going to be 2 officers for smaller states based upon, of course, who are meeting the eligibility criteria on the merit basis. And lastly, the names will be given back to the respective state government, and state government will have a choice that again how and which DGP they are going to select based on the names which has been given by UPSC. Next, there has been a change, or there has been an incorporation of fundamental right. So Supreme Court has been hearing a lot of cases, and fundamental rights are very organic. They keep on updating, and there has been a lot of implicit rights which has been included under Article 21, Article 19. Right. So again, recently in a case that is UP Tollways and MP Road Development Corporation, Supreme Court has told that again we have a fundamental right to safe and motorable roads, because we have seen the condition of roads, how accidents are happening due to the bad infrastructure of these roadways. So Supreme Court has make this, that access to a safe and motorable road as a fundamental right under the 2 important fundamental rights, that is Article 21, right to life and personal liberty, and Article 19, 1 subclause G, that is freedom of movement. Right. So they are telling, Supreme Court has told that again road development is a public duty, and it has to be done by state. That state is going to maintain the road and not private contractors. And the state here means Article 12 defines states with respect to fundamental rights. So that is the state which is being discussed over here. Right. Next important news. So recently there has been a 15 years completion of UN Women, which is again talking about the idea of gender advocacy. Again, as I discussed, anniversary years make certain important topics, and UPSC has been asking questions on these themes as well. So this is an international body, and again bodies are there, very important with respect to examination of prelims. Right. So it was established in the year 2010 under the United Nations General Assembly's resolution, and it has a headquarters in New York, USA. It is doing a task of promotion of women's right and gender equality, empowering women at a global level, and also acting as a secretariat to UN Commission on Status of Women. Right. Then in terms of its governance structure, it is multi-tiered, with again we have UN General Assembly, Economic and Social Council, UN Women Executive Board. So it is not a single tier, it is a multi-tiered working institution, and also the Executive Board consists of 41 member states, and they are elected by the Economic and Social Council for 3-year terms. important facts could be asked in prelims examination. Next, the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has also maybe given what we call as a supply and use tables. Right, so again, with respect to this, what do you understand by supply and use table? So again, supply table basically consists of all products, all goods and services are listed down in a single table, which are maybe the supply with respect to Indian economy, which could be domestically produced and as well as which could be imported. So jitne bhi cheeze it is being there in the country, which is going to be supplied to economy, which has been put down in one list, and how we are going to use these products has been listed down in the use table, that again how these goods and services are used in terms of consumption, in terms of exports. So right, so it is basically linking, again giving a very structured product by industry matrix, that again how certain products are being produced or how certain products are being used, right? So this is how. So we are covering 2020, 21 and 21, 22 years for calculation of the supply and use table, and it is based on National Account Statistics and Annual Survey of Industries data. It is covering 140 products across 66 industries, and it is helping in terms of integration of 3 ways to calculate GDP. अगर देखते हो ना GDP हम कैसे calculate करते हैं? By income method, by production method. So it is going to integrate all the 3 methods how we are calculating GDP. So this is very good thing and good data which has been given by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. The next important news, United Nations Security Council 1267 Sanctions Committee. So under the United Nations Security Council, there is a specific committee with the name of 1267, which is basically categorizing all important terrorist organizations, terrorist. So in this, there's a list which is on the name of 1267 list. If any terrorist organization, if any terrorists are being there in that list, who are included in that list, then it makes mandatory for entire nation countries to freeze the assets with respect to that terrorist or terrorist organization, impose travel bans on them, and also enforce arms embargoes on them. Right? So this is a very good initiative, and again it is monitoring the sanctions on terrorist organizations like ISIS, Al-Qaeda and their affiliates. So it is the recent chair of this particular committee is in Denmark, well 2025. So the Pahalgam attack which has happened in India, this committee had led a operation and search and operation and investigation, and again it has investigated that behind this Pahalgam terror attack there is a resistance front, TRF, which is a proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, which was behind this Pahalgam terror attack, which has been put up in this 1267 list, which makes all country mandatory to do these 3 things. It is very important and significant step with respect to the terrorist organizations. Why? Because Pakistan is also a member country, and it has also made consensus and acknowledged that again this report has been there, that again this is a terrorist organization which has been linked to Pahalgam terror attack. The next important news, again the Banking Laws Amendment Act 2025 is going to be implemented by 1st of August 2025, right? So there have been a few amendments on these acts, which are very important topics because we have a chapter of banking in our Indian economy, paper number 3. So please look at these acts, very important. So there are few changes which has also been done. For example, the interest limit has been raised from 5 lakh to 2 crore, right? So again, this is the first revision since 1968. In terms of cooperative banks, few change has been made, and again how exactly directors are going to be appointed, what are their, right? And again cooperatives were included in Indian Constitution by 97th Constitutional Amendment Act, important fact for a prelims examination. And again with respect to public sector banks also, there has been few changes. So it is important, please read them, important facts for your prelims examination, right? And just a news, why? Because it is going, these amendments are going to be coming in force by tomorrow, that is 1st of August 2025. Then the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission has been a very good step or good scheme of Indian government, which has been talking about one component is with respect to empowerment of rural women. So it was launched by Ministry of Rural Development, very important. Aim is to organize and uplift rural poor women through self-help groups, and it is covering all states and UTs except Delhi and Chandigarh. यहाँ आता है trap आपका, right? They can ask you a question that again, this the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission is applicable for entire country? No, sir, it is not applicable to Delhi and Chandigarh, which are the UTs. So the features of this include, again, they are providing credit for Women Enterprise Acceleration Fund. They are promoting farm as well as non-farm income activities with respect to women. They are also using social behavior change communication for inclusive participation of women in different sectors of farm and non-farm activities. And also they are training women as banking correspondents in terms of Sakhis, which is also leading to what? Financial education, and again giving them employment also. In terms of why this was in news, because it has been told that again 11 lakh plus crore loans has been given to these self-help groups under this Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission, which is again helping in terms of women-led rural economic transformation. Very important, because in paper number 1 GS, there is a topic of women and women organizations. So again, this could be used as an example as conclusions in your answers. Lastly, Pipharava relics was in news because it is a sacred remains of Lord Buddha. Again, very important topic for Indian culture. UPSC favorites areas are Jainism and Buddhism. So this basically Pipharava relic, it is of course the Buddhist relic. So in May 2025, this relic was put on auction in Hong Kong. India somehow got to know and it stopped this auction of this particular relic, and it has been brought back to India. That is the origin of this particular relics. So that is why this topic is very important, and very important topic for your prelims examination, because Buddhism, Jainism, important favorite areas of UPSC. Right, so again, with respect to this relic, it was founded by 1898 by William Claxton, and it is located in Pipharava, which is in Siddharth Nagar, Uttar Pradesh, and which is an ancient town of Kapilavastu. What are the features of this? Is basically a box. In this box, the body relics of Buddha, that is the bone fragments of Buddha, is kept. It is also having caskets which has soapstone, crystal and sandstone. It is also offering all the offerings of gold ornaments and other sacred items are there. It has also a Brahmani inscription which confirms the deposition of Sakya clan, right? In terms of its historical significance, it is enshrined around 3rd century BCE. It is among the earliest physical evidences of Buddha's mortal remains, right? And in terms of its legal status, it is classified as AA antiques under the Indian law, and it is prohibited from sale or removal from the country, and that is why it has been brought down by India, from which was put down for a sale in Hong Kong in May 2025. Very important topic for your prelims examination in terms of Indian art and culture. Now we are done with today's news. So all important questions which could be framed from the topic what we have discussed today will pop up in your screen. Please solve those questions. That will give you a sense of completeness with respect to whatever topics we have read and we have discussed. So it is very important to solve these questions. Please solve those questions. Please comment what are your answers, so that again others can also know and we can generate a very competitive spirit with respect to this particular program. Lastly, Visionize has come up with a very noble platform, that is digital current affairs platform, which is a one-stop solution for entire current affairs issue with respect to UPSC. Please go and explore and make well use of this platform. Thank you so much and have a good night.